Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I got a returning guest, somebody who has been covering the crypto space for some time now, trading it, making money, and in the markets now for a number of years. And he said, "Hey, I can trade crypto," and he's been doing it now with his partner for some time. His website, his YouTube channel, Ready Set Crypto. Doc Severson. Doc, thank you so much for coming on Crush the Street with me once again. Here we are in a much different time. I mean, but you've stuck with it. I mean, you've had enough conviction to stick with crypto through the bear market, in the hype of the bull market, and obviously didn't think it was a shot in the dark, here today, gone tomorrow sort of trend. So here we are. Thanks for coming on the show with me today.
Sure. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate you inviting me again. The thing that we found with crypto, because a lot of people just sort of disappeared with crypto, but look, if you've got the skills, you can trade it up, down, and sideways. There's different things that you can do to use derivatives to trade it to the downside. If you want to use perpetual futures, or you can use options, or there's all kinds of things that you can do that most investors just don't have those skills. So if you have a trading background, and this is really what we did over the last 3 years, is during the bear market, it was our job to show investors like how to become traders. The people that were just used to saying, hey, buy the dip or dollar cost averaging, let's show you some different skills that you can put to use in the markets. And now that the markets are heading higher, those skills are even more to the front because they're able to pick up more edge in their trading.
Yeah. I think Bitcoin and the rest of the market corrected while I was sleeping the other day. I mean, it had like this slight move down and then back up to where it is. I mean, what are you seeing in terms of this stair step higher? We really haven't seen a crash yet. I mean, in terms of time, we've had these major moves down, but in terms of like what I would consider a real crash, nothing's turned into a bear market yet. Like you said, we're moving higher from a trading perspective and in a general momentum sort of trend. What are you seeing on that front? And do you expect it to have a real bear market where, it does what it did in 2017 going into 2018 and 2019?
There's a lot of different definitions to bear market. Some of them are just, percentage. If we define crypto with the same criteria that we use for the equity markets for bear market, which is 20%, we'd see one just about every week, right?
Right.
So it's a whole different animal. It's got much different characteristics to it. To me, the whole answer to that question comes in terms of the character of the price action. So right now, what we're seeing is a crypto market that's going in what's called quiet and trending character. So I picked this up from one of the original turtle traders, which were back in the 1980s, right? And so they defined the character of the market as in 4 different steps. Quiet and trending, which you're going to see about 80% of the time, that always transitions into sideways and volatile. And then if it's truly a bear market, that will transition then at that point into trending and volatile, which is code word for bear market. So we're not seeing that right now. We're seeing a market that is in quiet and trending. It's very linear. It's very predictable when it does this sort of thing. When markets transition into corrective, they become very unpredictable, very nonlinear, like every rip to the upside gets sold into. That trapdoor opens up every time. It gets to be very, very difficult to trade. In fact, most people don't know that during a corrective or bear market, that most of the candles are still green. It's just that the red ones, when they show up, are just monsters, right? They just kneecap everybody. So right now we're in this beautiful sort of very linear market where everything makes sense. It's pulling back to fib levels. It's doing what generally people expect it to do with a certain amount of randomness to it, just to make it interesting. But
Yeah.
right now, this is not a bear market, or any kind of correction that we're seeing is not a bear market. We're not transitioning to any kind of sideways and volatile or volatile and trending type of character.
So really what we're seeing is the opposite of what you're saying in terms of that bear market uh, typical behavior. And that is when when we do have that move higher in bear markets, you have major selling going on. What we're seeing is that in those move lowers, we're seeing a lot of buying take place, right? You
Mhm.
know, and maybe who was that buying coming from, in your opinion? Are we seeing the big money really start to enter the crypto space?
It's interesting because when you talk to people, when you talk to individual investors out there, there's sort of a, I don't know, this sort of religion around crypto that comes out there. And one of the things that most people are saying in the crypto space, and this goes back a few years, is like, oh, we don't need those institutions. We don't need any of this. We don't need any exchanges. We can just peer to peer. We can, this is our own market here. And to some degree, that's true, but you're never going to get the volume. And what you do want is you do want the volume. You want those institutional investors into there. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people have gotten a bad name from things like high frequency trading and institutions or hedge funds coming on board. And I welcome that. I welcome that because I've been trading alongside of them for the past 20 years, and I'm very comfortable with that because they leave great big footprints everywhere they go. So all I have to do is just attach myself to the side of one of their moves, and things become much more easy, much more simple when something like that happens. So my point here is that I welcome institutional support or institutional interest into this market, which I think we're starting to see in spades right now.
Yeah. Well, and it's something that has been a beautiful thing for guys like us who've been in it now for a while to see the richest man on earth enter the space. And it's just quite the endorsement for people who just thought crypto was a nothing burger, going to go away. I mean, I know a guy like Peter Schiff who is just so adamant that it's worth nothing. When it's all said and done, it's, as you know, from a trader, things go up because there's more buyers and sellers. And I understand the theoretical, crypto is intangible and, you can in theory have infinite amounts of competing cryptos, which is a dilution of, the so-called 21 million hard cap on Bitcoin. But still, though, like when it's all said and done, you can't delude yourself to the fact that Bitcoin is $50,000. I mean, how much are you going to argue with the fact that it's continuing to be adopted, and the biggest money in the world is putting their savings into crypto? And so I think it's a delusion to just have this one-sided religion against crypto and just not understand that it's multifaceted and nuanced. For the same people who think that Amazon shouldn't be worth what it's worth because of their revenues and what they're doing. It is what it is. They're going to trade for 10,000x their earnings, and there's something to that maybe.
There's a concept that was put out there. This is probably 20 years ago by a gent by the name of Clayton Christensen, and he capped it called crossing the chasm. And if you've ever seen the product adoption life cycle, looks like a big bell curve. The people at the front end are always the innovators and then eventually the early adopters. And then there's this huge chasm where things go to die because they never hit the early majority, which is the first half of that bell curve up at the top. The early majority is when things start to really move. And this was my concern 4 years ago, is that crypto was definitely innovator, early adopters had not crossed the chasm. In my mind, we have crossed the chasm into early majority now. Now, the litmus test for that is if people say, "Oh, this is crap. There's no way. That's just a scam." If 8 out of 10 people think that it's probably a bad idea, then you're on something. If, on the other hand, 8 out of 10 people say, "Yep, that's a great idea. I'm totally bought into that," then we may be going down the late majority side of things, and it may be too late. It may be time to get out at that time. Or maybe it's about to morph into something else, or there's something else new which is coming along, which we need to be aware of. But right now, we're on the right side of the product adoption cycle of cryptocurrency.
So maybe in terms of the spectrum, of good and bad. What do you think is possible? Call maybe Bitcoin being the thermostat for the rest of the crypto market. What is the downside, the upside, in your opinion? I mean, I know it's impossible to forecast price, but do you think it's realistic that Bitcoin goes back to $1,000, or is it possible that Bitcoin goes to $300,000 or $400,000, maybe $1 million, based on the growth here? And I'm talking about in the next 5 to 10 years, not any like, we're waiting for the Earth to turn into an ice ball type of prediction. I mean, you know, this is a realistic. Hey, what could we see here in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, there's probably better people to answer that question than myself, because I'm just sort of like zeroed in on what the price is doing and trying to use the utility for today. So I'm not about much of a futurist, because uh, my belief is that we're eventually going to have something that's a little bit quicker to transfer. So I don't know if Bitcoin itself is going to be viewed as some type of currency, or whether it's just going to remain as sort of this notion of digital gold. But I believe what it's going to do is it's going to be the offensive tackle of a football team. Like, it's going to blow open some holes for some really killer apps that are down the road, which are already coming to the market right now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to see what's happening with it, because Bitcoin was such a libertarian, out alt-right sort of technology, if you will. A lot of people have accused it of people being criminals wanting it, but it was very interesting for a guy like myself who looks at the economy and goes, man, it's pretty crazy what the government is doing with fiat currencies, and we see what's going on all around the world. It's kind of nice to have something that competes with the US dollar, similar to that, to gold, and it being that digital gold. So it was very interesting from that perspective. But mainstream, the government, if you will, progressive agenda tends to not embrace that sort of thinking. So I'm kind of concerned in terms of the acceptance of it, but it seemed to be accepted in major ways, especially with, again, going back to Elon Musk and some of the biggest names in the financial industry now looking towards crypto. So I'm curious as to what that sort of adoption might look like, trying to connect with your mainstream financial media and just politics in general.
To me, the banks are the biggest tell right now, because I still cannot, myself owning a business that is dedicated to cryptocurrency, I cannot open a bank account with the biggest banks in the country. They will not accept my business because they want nothing to do with cryptocurrency. And so that, to me, is actually an opportunity that tells me that, okay, the fact that you're saying that this is bad is actually good, because to me, that means that they view this as a threat, and they don't understand it, and they never will understand it. So what's going to happen is, again, we're going to jump over that chasm. All of a sudden, the early majority is going to hit this thing, and it's going to be a tidal wave that's going to hit eventually. And in fact, this is starting to happen now. So each one of these, like I said before, there was the first wave, like 2012, 2013, second wave, 2016, 2017. This is the next wave. It's not yet played out. But the next one, I think, is where we get into the full majority of things. It's going to be just, like the internet was 25 years ago. Nobody knew what the hell it was except for a few people. And then all of a sudden it just becomes ubiquitous everywhere. This will eventually hit. It's not going to happen all at once with cryptocurrency, but just the changes that I've seen in 4 years show me that mass adoption is on the way, because they've made it very simple. That's the biggest change that has occurred in the last 4 years, is that the use of this is very simple. And some of these companies are really driving the ease of use towards this.
Yeah. How big of a problem do you think it'll be for companies that don't adopt crypto, especially in the financial world? Are they going to be at a severe disadvantage? I mean, is it the potential? And again, it's instinctual, it's speculative. I mean, it's just us having a conversation about what could happen. But Is it like a Blockbuster moment where they're like, hey, this live streaming ain't going to go anywhere, and it's worthless, but then all of a sudden Netflix comes around, and Blockbuster could have bought Netflix for $10 million in the early days, and look what happened. The rest is history.
It's always going to be like that. It's always going to be about disruption to the existing structure. Disruption of that's the way that progress happens, is you have to topple the existing monuments to jump on top of that and build on top of that. So this is why, if you want to go back 50 years ago, this is why the Volkswagen Bug all of a sudden got to be popular, because they got 80% of the utility in a car from the Volkswagen Bug versus, buying a Cadillac Eldorado at about a tenth of the price. And so that's why it was such a big hit. And we've seen the same thing happen over and over and over again. And you look at how difficult it is to do anything in the financial, world these days, to send money across from one place to another, unless you're going to do Venmo or something like that. And
But
it's
you
like,
can't do that
there's
in
no,
big dollar amounts.
yeah,
I mean,
you can't. It's just, and then all of a sudden you're tracked on this, and you can't take out more than $10,000 a day, and things like that. And it's, they've got their tentacles into everything. And at some point, people are going to say, look, I'm a little tired of this. A lot of people are already saying that, tired of this intrusion. And, the way that the system is structured right now, the IRS can physically go into your account and extract funds from that, which I don't know if I don't know if you're okay with it. I'm certainly not. And I think people are going to get to the point where they say, look, this intrusion is no longer warranted, and we need to do, and that's exactly why they're feel threatened by it, because they lose control for it. But it's a tidal wave. They're not going to be able to stop it.
Yeah, it's a real problem, and we're seeing it manifest itself in different ways. I mean, not to get political, but I mean, you can just see how the mainstream is treating President Trump, former president. He can't even speak without being told, you're not allowed here. Your words are hateful. I mean, it just all, and by who? Who decides this? And we've gone so far down the road of totalitarianism, censorship. And I think we've become so conditioned to have so much power over us as a country, which is, kind of anti what this country was founded on, that freedom. I mean, we got to even be careful what we say on YouTube. And, why are crypto channels being censored? Like, why? That just blows my mind that they call crypto. I don't even know what there's, is it, uh, I don't even know, some sort of harming people or misinformation or what, but they seem to do it, and they're getting away with it. And I know they started off, I've said this time and time again, they started off with Alex Jones, somebody who is, everyone can kind of agree is a little crazy and out there and talks about crazy things. But then they went down the line to start censoring the White House press secretary, and they really conditioned people to think like this is okay. And just think about what they could do in the financial world. They start off with the crazy, and then they just go down the line on the power and controlling people, taking from people. And to me, that's very bothersome. And I see the trend happening, and I think anything is possible. And things are happening at an exponential rate, changing at an exponential rate. So this could be 2-3 years down the line. When we think this will happen in 2 decades, things are rapidly changing. This is not something that's taking, decades to happen.
It is very Orwellian.
Yes.
What we're seeing right now, just because, we've sort of held up the Constitution as some, you put it up on the wall and you just have it as that's your bedrock. And now people are saying, well, that was written, 250 years ago, that none of that stuff applies to today's society. So let's rewrite it. And we're seeing that across the board. So it's, that's the problem. And that relates back to crypto, is that you now have to be your own protector. You can't trust some government. And this is not just the United States. I'm seeing the same thing. I've got friends that are over in the UK and they're having the same exact problem, if not worse, as well as the EU. Like, hey, we're the EU, we know what's best for you. Let's all just get along. And so you're seeing this sort of like, let's all put this one world government together and let's all just control everybody. And crypto could be the key to to escaping that jail sentence.
Yeah, a little bit of, hey, there's a little bit of a resistance, I would say, and having some sort of competition to the elite money is good for sound fundamentals. I mean, you want to go to an area that has good food, make sure there's a lot of competition out there. If not, you got to go to the one diner that serves crappy food. Then you're kind of stuck with it. So anyways, Doc, man, I love just the conversation of psychology and money, and it all ties in. I mean, what's happening in our world, and obviously how you're able to make money trading it, and you've helped tons of people, and congratulations to you for the success that you have. If people want to learn more about you, your services, please let them know where they can go and what they can expect to find.
There's a couple of things that they can do if they're interested in crypto. You can just go to our website at readysetcrypto.com. And we do have a free Discord that you can get access to from that. And the other way, if you're more interested in the equity markets or just learning about trading in general, the other site that we have is called readyset.trade. So if you go to elite.readyset.trade, you can sign up for free. You can be part of our community. And so we're getting people just jumping all over that free offer to join our community. And it's great because there's a number of classes that we have out there to get you started in trading and just to get you past this point of like, look, the way to make money in the markets is not necessarily just to sign up for Wall Street bets and copy what everybody else is doing. That is a double-edged sword that's out there that cuts both ways. So we want to get people up and rolling in the right way to do this.
Well, good. And we'll have the links in the description area. Doc Severson, everyone. Doc, thanks for coming on the show with me today.
Thank you very much, Ken. It's always a pleasure.